Welcome back, boys and girls, to another edition of Mr. Mortgage's Neighborhood. Tonight, our first guest is a special friend of the neighborhood. We have Bryan Klugh from Vision Line Media. Bryan is kind of the brains behind Mr. Mortgage's Neighborhood. He does all the digital proceeding, everything that you're seeing. Bryan started here. We had the idea a while ago, discussed it, and I wanted to bring him on as one of our inaugural guests so he can talk about what he does, how he works in the industry, and all the wonderful accomplishments he's had. How you doing, Bryan?
Thanks,
Welcome
man.
to the neighborhood.
Thanks, Mr. Mortgage. Nice to be here.
Oh, it's great. So, tell the neighborhood who you are and what you do and how you love life.
Absolutely. My name is Bryan Klugh. My company is Vision Line Media. I've been around since 2001 here in South Jersey. We're a multimedia firm, which in just plain English means that we do web properties, search engine optimization, just about everything having to do with websites and web marketing for businesses. And we actively manage a little over 1,000 clients throughout the country.
Nice.
So, yeah, we got our start in 2001. It was tough times, man. It was like, that story, I mean, if you want to hear it, I'll tell you. It's a little crazy, but yeah, it's been good, man. We've been really blessed, and I've been really blessed to meet some really cool people around South Jersey that are in business, like yourself, that you know, their passions go just beyond business, some to charitable efforts and things like that. So it's probably being my own boss was the best thing I ever did, man.
Nice. And I know that you work, maybe not primarily with realtors, but you do have a lot of clients that are realtors that you work with. So can you tell everybody kind of what you do for realtors and how you help them out to get exposure?
Yeah, so real estate's kind of one of our big vertical markets. We never planned on getting involved in real estate from the beginning, from the get-go, but we just sort of fell into it because there was this need where I'm sure every real estate agent that's watching this could attest to all the fads that come and go, these lead generation programs that you subscribe to, and they set you up with a website and they claim to drive leads to your business, and you know, 9 times out of 10 those leads aren't even real, or the day you miss a payment, your website goes away.
Richard Gozinia at gfy.com. Yup.
So, being in the web field, there are certain principles, guiding principles, and best practices, and things you should be doing for every web client. And we said, why don't we just like package this up for real estate and say, hey, real estate agent, this is what you should be doing based on best practices for search engine optimization, Google marketing, things like that, and put a package in front of the agents that makes sense. It's not based on fluff or false promises. It's just, this is how the internet works. This is how you get to the top of the search engines. This is how you farm a specific zip code or a geography. This is how you make your presence known in your neighborhood. And you know, we've worked with people like yourself in the mortgage biz, title biz, to help co-op some of the funding for these folks as well. Obviously, you know, one hand washes the other. The more agents that can refer business to you, the better, and vice versa. So that's sort of how that vertical arose for us. And I think we probably have maybe about 30 clients in that vertical currently, and growing quite a bit.
Sure. And I know you don't have to say the agents' names or anything like that, but when we were talking about agents that you work with, it's some of the higher producing agents in the South Jersey area. You're not talking about people that no one would know. The names that you service,
yes,
some of them are very well known and people look up to. So you have definitely contributed to their success.
Yeah, and that's been some of it. What's interesting is that obviously the larger agents had the funds and they had the wherewithal to go ahead and execute a program like that. But what I try to do is explain to even the smaller agents that you can do this. This doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. Sure. It does take work though. It takes work on our part. It takes work on the agent's part. But when you're willing to put in the work, you can get the same results that these big guys are getting and spending fortunes, but you can do it in your own backyard. You can farm just one town, one school district, one zip code, and you can be very, very successful with it. One of the most affirming things that we ever had come up about our program for real estate agents was I was sitting with, I won't say his name, but he is the largest real estate agent in the greater Philadelphia area out of an office over in Philadelphia. He popped his head in while I was meeting with an agent over there, and he sat down and he said, I want to hear about your program. And I went through it, and he goes, that's exactly what I've been doing for the last 10 years. And all the other agents looked in the room and go, we want that.
Exactly.
But it's not rocket science.
No.
It's just hard work. It's hard work and it's discipline, right? I mean, search engine optimization just doesn't happen overnight. It's discipline. It's about content creation. It's about sticking to a plan and executing. And honestly, if it was easy, I think everyone would do it. But that's what separates the good from the bad.
Yeah. The one thing that you didn't mention that I was really impressed with, I don't know if you want to talk about your proprietary stuff, but you have technology that follows the consumer on the internet, which I thought was awesome, and I never understood that's what was going on until you explained it to me, because it had happened to me from other vendors before.
Well, yeah, and what's interesting is it's not really proprietary, but what's interesting is most people don't understand it or how it works. And what I like to do is explain to people how you can create a network, just like you and I network together. We're out there going to meetings, we're pressing flesh, we're shaking hands, we're going out to dinners, we're having breakfast with people, meeting different people and networking. You can do the equivalent of that online.
Right.
We can make it so that a real estate agent, their preferred mortgage vendor, their title person, if you go to any one of their sites, you see all three of their ads. And that's where we take offline networking and bring it online, right?
Right.
So that tie those three people together. Why aren't we helping each other? We help each other in business every day. We call each other up. I say, Jim, I got somebody for you. Or you say, Brian, I got a lead for you. Why aren't we doing that online?
Sure.
So, and that was really, the impetus for putting those type of things in place. One of the other things people don't realize as well is that they think that internet advertising is terribly expensive. They say, oh man, if I buy Zillow leads, I got to come in with a couple grand a month just to buy part of a zip code, part of the time.
Yeah.
I said, well, did you know that I could put you on Zillow.com, Realtor.com, HomeFinder.com, Apartments.com, you name it, all for $0.00. Heck, I can put you on Fox News, CNN, ABC, NBC, $0.00.
Right.
Within any zip code in America you choose, and you only pay for the people that click it and come to your ad. And people their minds are blown. They're just like, wait, I can do that? I'm like, yes. You can spend a couple $100 and show your ad 500,000 times.
All over the place.
All over the place. So there are things that I think have been kept from the real estate industry simply because there's these big players involved, your Zillows of the world, your Realtors, that really have an interest in pushing one specific product, and the traditional search engine optimization, pay-per-click marketing, they've kind of gone by the wayside for the real estate agents. And when we tell them about this, they said, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know it was so cheap. And it's a great, it feels good to be able to introduce them to those kind of tools and make them look huge.
Yeah, make them look much bigger than they are. Make them look like they have a huge marketing staff when they really don't.
Without having to spend a ton of money.
Sure. We also talk about a lot of personal stuff here.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I know from being in the networking group we are is the Camp No Worries. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you do?
I'd love to talk about Camp No Worries.
Absolutely.
Nothing would make me happier, actually. So Jim and I are in a networking group together, and we have adopted a charity called Camp No Worries. Camp No Worries is an oncology camp for kids with cancer. Every year it's put on 100% volunteer, for free. They put about 100 kids through a summer camp program where they can swim, canoe, fish, do all the cool things you can imagine you would do at a summer camp. But these kids have cancer, and some of them are in the process of their treatments. Some of them are terminal and might not make it the next year. But this is a huge, huge event for them to go to, and they get to take their siblings with them for free too.
Right.
So they're not even separated from their family, which is really cool too.
Which is awesome.
So what we do every year is we try to raise money. Every $1,000 you raise, you can send one kid to camp for a week. There's doctors on staff, there's nurses on staff. It's incredibly safe place for these kids. And year over year, we usually raise about $40,000 a year to send kids to camp. And it's something that really weighed on my heart, because our family, my wife's got this giant family, right? So she's got like 1 million cousins.
Sure.
And all her cousins have little kids, and her cousins' kids and my kids just grew up together as if they are first cousins, even though they're not.
Right.
And one of them, as a child, had pediatric cancer. He had leukemia. And I remember how heartbroken I was to see this little guy, undergoing, chemotherapy and everything. It really broke my heart. I tell everybody, it really changed me for the rest of my life, how I view You know, I got a real hard passion for sick kids.
Yeah.
So we go out of our way to really do everything we can for this camp.
Yeah.
Especially since it's volunteer, it's 100% nonprofit. There's nobody taking a salary, nobody taking a dime. So anybody that's interested, I would love to tell you more about Camp No
Sure.
Worries. We're gonna have a big fundraiser coming up, and I'll make sure everybody gets an invite to it. I'm sure Mr. Mortgage will be there.
We're going to be promoting
Yeah, absolutely.
the event 100% for sure.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it's an awesome. I haven't really been involved with it yet, but I really dig that stuff. I love working with the homeless and children and all that stuff. So I can't wait to actually be a part of it.
Well, I'll take you on a tour when camp starts up in July. We'll go on a tour.
Love it.
The first time I toured the camp, I'm telling you, I just walked out, sat in my car, and bawled my eyes out.
Yeah.
Because it was sadness, but it was happiness at the same time. Because it was just so great to see the smile on these kids' faces, and you knew that they were so sick, and some of them weren't going to make it. But it was just like, you know, it was so powerful. And I think that if there's any organization like that, where you know that every nickel you raise for them is helping somebody directly, it's awesome, man. It's awesome.
We do a thing each year. We adopt a couple children, and we had somebody who came to us, and they didn't tell me the full story about the child. They just said he was sick and in the hospital, and he didn't like sports because I have all the sports connections, but he was like a gamer. So, you know, we wound up getting in touch with the Philly Fusion. They gave us this swag bag and gave the kid for Christmas, and he wound up having brain cancer, and he was in Children's Hospital. And I called his mom in July to talk to him, to his mom, and she told me that he had passed away. But she said, like, it was his greatest Christmas. He wore the headset all the time, and I was just like, I get chills talking about it right now. But that's why I like to do that stuff. You know what I mean? And like, it's a horrible thing. I can't imagine what it would be like to have a son that passes away. But like, for me, a guy who does mortgages or does regular stuff, to just be able to impact somebody like that and be there to know, like she said, you made his last Christmas awesome. No better thing. Like, nothing I could do would ever be better than that.
You're absolutely. I mean, I feel the same way. That I could close the biggest deal in the world, and it still wouldn't be like.
Nah, never make me feel.
Exactly. It's just perspective, right, man? It's like what really matters, what doesn't.
Absolutely. So. All right. So now I got a question for you. 5 minutes with any person, alive or dead, ever in the history of the world. Who's your person you want to have a 5-minute conversation with?
It's gonna be pretty easy for me. My father died. It'll be 5 years ago in another week.
Okay.
He was my mentor. He was everything to me, man. It was just like couldn't have had a closer relationship with anybody on the planet. My father, and I know a lot of guys will say. Some people have told me like, "Hey, man, I understand how much your dad meant to you." And a lot of guys will tell me like, "Hey, I didn't have that kind of relationship with my father. I didn't know my dad or whatever." My dad and I were like, I called him every day of my life. Personal questions, business questions. He was just a wealth of knowledge, and he was such an interesting guy. He had traveled the world. He'd been in every continent. He'd probably been in 70 different countries. He met all kinds of people from all kinds of diverse backgrounds. I used to joke our house was like the United Nations, because people were just from all over the world that spoke different languages. We were coming and going. He had friends from China, Argentina, Korea. They were always coming through our house, and we'd take them on tours, and we'd take them to Philadelphia to go see things, and we'd tour them around. And it was just, he was one of these guys that just a pure Renaissance kind of man. He knew a little bit about everything, which was kind of cool. Had wild stories to tell you. But I just like, everything I've ever done in my life is I just say, can I at least be as good as my dad? Because I know I can't be better.
Right. That's awesome. What did he do for a living?
So my dad, that's interesting too. He was an electrical engineer by degree. He started he grew up in a small town in western PA, and his options were military or the steel mill. But he was hella smart, and he wanted to go to college, so he had to do it all on his own. He worked in the steel mill in the summer, made enough money to go to college, had to actually sell his car to make his last car payment. Ended up working for RCA, which back then was like the biggest company on the planet. And then he had worked a couple different places. He had worked for some defense contractors, and that really took him around the world. He got to see all kinds of interesting places, interesting cultures. So he had some really good perspective on just on life and on the world, on people.
Yeah.
He loved people. He
That's awesome.
Loved people, man. So I'd give anything for like 5 minutes.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the interview with Bryan. If they need to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch
Yeah,
with you?
if you want to reach out, visionlinemedia.com anytime, or ask Mr. Mortgage, he knows where to find me.
Awesome, Bryan. Thanks for
Thanks,
coming
buddy.
to the neighborhood.
So good to see you,
Have
man.
a great night.
Thanks.
We'll be back.